Today we're going to be talking about how you would run a comeback route versus every single coverage. So first things first, I'm going to talk about the mechanics of a comeback break, the steps, how you get in and out of the break, and then we're going to talk about how you would run it versus like inside shade press, outside shade zone, and all the different looks that you probably have questions on. So for a comeback route, let's say for example, my quarterback is to the left side of the field. I start out my stance, my left foot is up. Obviously a comeback is where you're breaking to the sideline. It's a 45-degree cut where you're turning your back and coming outside of this break. So there's three specific steps that I want you to think about on this comeback. So let's say it's a 15-yard comeback route. All the way up to 15, I'm pushing vertical. I am selling the route. I'm running with long strides. I got good body language, slight forward lean. I tell my receivers, pretend like you are pulling a speed sled so I don't raise up before the cut. Now the first step is going to be something called the trigger step. So the trigger step is something you would use with your inside foot on a comeback, and that's that violent drop of your hips. You want to drop. I say you want to try to slam your chin to your knee, holding a 90-degree angle. That's what slows you down. Now the second step after the trigger step, so that's one, is going to be your pivot step. So you're going to pivot. Third step, you hook. So now I could drive off of this hook step and accelerate down that 45-degree angle. Now don't be so caught up in getting out in 3 steps. That's just for the example. If you take 5 steps, fine. Just be concerned with getting your hips out of the break as fast as possible and eliminating wasted time. So that's that comeback route. Now let's get into how you would run it versus the different coverage looks. Now also fellas, if you are a wide receiver and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this off season, we have 3 states left available where you could sign up and attend one of our 2-day long camps. So we're going to be coming out to Detroit, Michigan, Boise, Idaho, and Los Angeles, California this summer. We've already came out to 7 states across the country. Every single one of those camps is completely full and sold out. We have 7 more set up for this spring. All of those are sold out, but those last 3 this summer, Detroit, Michigan, Boise, Idaho, and Los Angeles, California, have available spots, but they will probably sell out within the next 2 weeks. So guys, if you're local to one of those cities, would like to train with us, check out that very first link in the description below. Let's get back to this video. Now for this first example of a comeback route, you guys are going to treat this yellow cone like the DB and this red cone and this white line like my line of scrimmage. So how would I run a 15-yard comeback route when I have a guy who's inside shade press, right? So the one thing that you obviously know is that if he's inside shade press and we have an outside breaking route, his goal is to force me to that sideline. So if we have inside shade press and we just take off and go run, this DB is going to get right into my hip, squeeze me to that sideline. Then when I break on the comeback, I'm not going to give my quarterback any room. So off the ball with my press release, I want to try to attack him. He's inside leverage to stop the inside route, force me to the sideline. So I want to make him think I'm trying to take an inside release. That's the best way to get this DB to move and keep his leverage. Then obviously I want to try to release to the outside, but I want to stay as tight to this DB as I can. They call it getting skinny. Now, the one thing about a comeback though, like we mentioned in the beginning part of this video, to get in and out of this break, what do I got to do with my hips? I have to drop my hips, right? So we do not want to restack a DB inside shade press on a comeback, in any press coverage, on a comeback or a curl route, because when you have to drop your hips, that DB can't run into us. We have to drop my hips to make that sharp 45-degree cut. So you want to get skinny with this DB, but you want to try to keep him right on your inside hip. So when you snap down, you could get out of this thing quicker at a sharper angle to get in and out of this break. So I'm going to show you how this thing should look full speed. Now this next coverage situation, you guys, is how would you run a comeback route if you had outside shade press? So this is kind of an awkward look, but a comeback route is one of those routes that is an MOR. What do I mean by MOR? That means mandatory outside release. You cannot run a comeback route with an inside release. So again, if you have outside shade press, is the quarterback probably going to give you the ball on a comeback? Maybe not, but I would like to be able to get separation and give him the confidence that he could throw me the ball versus outside shade press, so that's why we're discussing it. So if this yellow cone's the DB outside shade press, a lot of times on like a route like an out route, a corner route, what I might tell you to do is attack this DB, take the inside release, and if he's right on your hip and you're running an out route, you could swap by, slip underneath him because it's a 90-degree break. On a corner, which is a 45-degree break, you could do the same thing. But on a comeback route, as we know, we have to break down and come back on a different 45-degree angle, and that DB is going to be sitting right there. So it's hard to execute that throw by move. Not saying you couldn't do it, but it's hard to do it. So what you want to do, if you have this outside shade guy, is you want to try to threaten his inside hip the best we can. Make him think we were taking that inside release, again, the best we can. We have to be able to engage with this DB on this. Don't be afraid of the contact, but I'm taking this outside release and I'm trying to stay as tight as I possibly can to him so I could get into him, get up to my break point, and run this route. It is very important that we do not force it way outside and run towards the sideline. You have to get into him and do the best you can with this coverage look. So I'm going to show you how this should look full speed. Now, this next coverage example is probably the most common coverage question that we get asked. How would I run a comeback route when I have a DB who's outside shade and in zone coverage? So you would use a move called a vertical set because we were trying to make this comeback route look exactly like a fade route. If I got a guy who's 8 to 10 yards off and he's right in front of me and I got to run a comeback all the way up till 15, 12 yards, whenever the break is, I'm trying to make it look like a fade. But I could also make my routes look like a fade with the move that I decide to use mid-route to set it up. So DB's outside shade and in zone. His goal is don't get beat to the outside. So it's kind of a problem when I have to run an outside breaking route. So a lot of people, when they get a DB who's in this type of coverage look, where they're sitting like this in zone, what they'll do is that they will take off and just run to something called his blind spot. The blind spot is the area between the sideline and his back. So if they just take off and go run to the blind spot, that DB is going to widen, and then when I break on my comeback route, I might get outside of him, but I'm not going to have any space to the sideline. So guys, what we have to do is we have to attack his near hip, and we have to give him something called a vertical set fake inside. So we run up to him, we're closing the space, hard fake inside to try to get him to bite on some type of post route. And everybody will say, well, if a DB's outside shade, why would he bite on a post route? He's outside shade, he's in zone, he's going to let you go run. If he doesn't have any other threats to his zone, anybody that plays defense knows this, that it almost turns into a man type coverage unless he's got something like a wheel coming underneath to his deep third or deep fourth of the field if we're on the outside. So this can hopefully get him to crash down. Then we slip to the blind spot next, but we're staying tight to him. I get up to the break point and I put the brakes on, so I give my quarterback space rather than just running straight to that blind spot. So guys, I'm going to show you how this should look full speed. Now, before we show that full speed example, you guys, of the comeback versus zone coverage, if you're a wide receiver and you want to improve this off season, check out that second link in the description below for our ultimate wide receiver training package. What you'll get access to is an 8-week long daily on-field route running, catching, press release workout schedule, an 8-week long daily gym routine for wide receivers, a 4-week long speed workout routine to help you get faster, and we also throw in a 50-minute long video where I break down the recruiting process, how you guys can get recruited as a wide receiver and take your skills to that Division I, D2, D3, whatever level that you may choose at the collegiate space. So guys, check out that second link in the description below if you want to improve your skills as a wide receiver this off season. Let's get back to this video.